Hello, my name is Diana Benalcázar, and that will speak about the vaccine COVID-19 that will arrive in England. Let's talk about the vaccine first. Since the beginning of the pandemic, the vaccines against COVID-19 has become one of the great wishes of the scientific community, the public authorities, and society in general, in the hope that it will bring about the beginning of the end of the crisis sanitary. In a report following the announcement by two pharmaceutical companies that their candidates vaccines had my active for sense effects. The sense effect, the critical review on the scientific literature, and then generation. By other countries, he had established a priori list based on ethical principles and dictated to the country. The report establishes that the first group that should be vaccinated is the most exposed, and that is necessary to protect to the most. Such health persons who are in contact with patients, doctors, nurses, and other hospital persons, and people who work in nurse jobs. In this group, according to the platform, the personnel of first aids such as fighters and policemen works also enter. Although investigations are progressing, group leader and three pharmaceutical companies have already announced high levels of efficacy. For their drugs, the date of the distributions is a mystery. However, English hospitals have already received the indication to prepare for the launch in just 5 days. That is, English hospitals will have the first dose of the coronavirus vaccine between December 7 and 9. The country's authorities have raised the rate of several occasions that health workers are step and receives on centers for the elderly and the elderly over 18 years old of the preferred groups. The characteristics of the vaccine seem to have forced a rethinking of the situations that the great technical problems generated by the US, the laboratory took made it difficult to write part of these populations. NHS leaders estimate that the vaccine is transported more than 4 times its rooms, and the risk of becoming unstable and not lower effective. The fact that once it arrives on the country, we have already been moved actress. from the production plants in the Berlin to the Birwise in Britain, and from there to the hospitals, is what has motivated this change and distributions. Whether the vaccine at the hospitals on December 7 depends on the approval of the drug by the regulatory agencies for medicines and health products. Currently, this body has been studying the compound for months that a Greek and Health Secretary Mike Haycock is confident that the go ahead will come week. Finally, vaccine shops in stores of the other priority rows. The English health authorities point out that I will have the things will be covered the Oxford and Point. AstraZeneca had evaluated the possibility of conducting a final clinical trials for some downs arising around the compound. Thank you. Next, I am going to present you a short video about the COVID-19 vaccine.
It seems like the whole world is holding its breath for the COVID-19 vaccine. But you might be wondering, how do we even go about making the COVID-19 vaccine? There are two main goals in vaccine development. First, the vaccine needs to be safe to administer to the general population. Second, the vaccine needs to be efficacious against the pathogen, for instance, a virus. There are a couple ways to identify that, by seeing if it produces a significant immune response to the virus, or by seeing if it reduces the chance of getting the disease itself. Before a candidate vaccine even begins being administered to humans, it goes through extensive animal testing, typically using lab mice. In this phase, researchers are looking for side effects within the mice, which can range from mild skin irritation at the site of injection to death. Researchers also take blood samples from the mice over the next several days to weeks. Researchers measure the blood antibody levels of the mice and specifically look for antibodies being produced that would combat the virus. A sufficient number of antibodies being produced after the vaccine is administered is a promising result. Sometimes mice are given the virus to see if having the vaccine prevents them from getting the disease. If there are no significant negative side effects and there's evidence of vaccine efficacy, the vaccine can move to clinical trials. Clinical trials are broken down in 3 phases and are designed to measure both the safety of the candidate vaccine and the immune response, just like in mice. In all of these phases, humans are given the candidate vaccine and others are given a placebo, with the goal to help make it easier to compare the efficaciousness of the vaccine. Healthy adults are usually chosen for these studies because the goal is to ensure that they are least likely to develop a serious problem from the vaccine, and so that if they do develop a health issue, it's most likely from the vaccine and not from an underlying condition. In Phase 1 trials, a small group of individuals on the order of a few dozen are picked to establish a candidate vaccine safety, such as side effects, as well as the upper and lower limits for vaccine doses. Vaccine doses that are too low may not create an efficacious immune response, whereas vaccine doses that are too high may cause unwanted side effects, so finding the right dose is really important. In Phase 2 trials, the primary focus is on the efficacy of a candidate vaccine. Researchers are trying to answer the question, Does the vaccine at this dose produce a sufficient immune response? In these trials, a few hundred individuals who match the demographics of the population the final vaccine will need to protect are given the vaccine. In Phase 3 trials, the goal is to get a larger sample size of people, usually in the thousands, to further prove that the vaccine is efficacious. Researchers in this phase are looking to see if individuals who received the candidate vaccine contract the disease circulating in the real world. Questions researchers are trying to answer include, did someone who got the candidate vaccine get COVID-19, as well as how severe were vaccinated people's symptoms if they did get COVID-19? This phase can take months or years to gather enough information. If a candidate vaccine makes it through all 3 phases of clinical trials and is shown to be both safe and efficacious at combating the virus, then it is approved for manufacturing and distribution to the population.